Here we are again. We're in the studio. I received something very interesting today in the mail. Showed up from Italy, and there's been a lot of speculation and a lot of hope that's been put into this. And unfortunately, I have a little disappointment. Here it is. This is the piece of paper that came packaged with it. And I'm not sure if you can read this, being that it's Italian, but Effetto per basso tipo Human Gear Distortion. It's got a picture of the Animato at the bottom, and it gives a general run over of what the pedal is and what you should do with it. It's not an instruction manual, as far as I can tell. It's just an advertisement. But the actual pedal is down here. So this is what you actually will receive. It's a small black plastic box. It's got some foam feet on the bottom. It's got a battery door here, which is easily accessible. You've got 3 controls. From what I can make out on the video, this is obviously going to be volume. This is going to be your distortion level, and this is going to be your tone. The mythical switch has been put in, and I'm going to show you what it sounds like in comparison to a real Human Gear Animato. Now for this test, we're just going to be running the DBS 7200 with a 410 and a single 15. My board is still set up and is still complete. I have one Animato, the real one, in the top chain, and I have the copy in the bottom chain. Clear bass tone. Real Human Gear Animato. Human Gear Animato copy. Let's try a more familiar riff using just the Animato. Just the real Animato on top. Now, Animato copy. From what I can tell, it's about a half and half. Hearing it live in the room, it kind of sounds like the Human Gear Animato and the Big Muff blend just by itself, with no clean fixed in. And for that, I'm going to put them both on the real pedals, and then I'll go back to the other one and you can see the comparison. So here's Animato and Muff blended with no clean sound using a Boss LS2 line selector. Now, here's the Animato copy with clean blend, which I think sounds more like those two pedals together. I'm not sold on it personally. I don't think it's an actual Animato copy. I think it does get close, though I will say for the price and the hassle to have one of these shipped over, you're not going to be completely satisfied with this pedal. I bought it hoping that I could replace my original Animato with a copy to protect my original Animato, but for some reason to me it's not up to snuff. One other thing I wanted to note The Animato that I have, the real one, is set up with the switch turned over to the right-hand side of the pedal. Volume sits at about 11 o'clock. The distortion sits at about 11 o'clock, in between 11 and 12. And the actual tone knob is set at about 1 to 130. Okay? On the copy, I have the switch turned down, which is the one that makes it the loudest and most distorted. If I flip the switch up, it gets really muffled and kind of sounds like you put a blanket over top of the amp. The volume is sitting right now at 2 o'clock, and distortion and tone are dimed. If I made this pedal with the exact same settings as the other one, I'll show you what that sounds like. Volume. There we go. So this is the pedal with those same settings. I'll go between the two. Real Animato. Animato copy. So if I turn the volume up to get a reasonable amount of volume out of it, it's real bassy, real deep. It's got, it doesn't have that shrill, nasal characteristic that the original pedal has. So to duplicate it, I had to turn the distortion up. I'll do that now, leaving the tone sitting at about 130. It's still got a lot of muffled bass. Both dimed. Now it's starting to get into the mode. If I flip the switch the other way, this is the most interesting part. This is the switch facing up. Since we don't know what the real switch actually does, and you can't really tell much of a difference with the switch left or right in the real one, you would think that this one would be exactly the same. But this is the switch facing up. Down. Now on the real Human Gear Animato, we know the switch doesn't really do much. At least we can't tell. So I'll show you that too. The previous versions with the regular Animato had the switch to the right. So I'm going to go to the left now. The switch is on the left. Switch is on the right. Left. Right. So, in conclusion, while this pedal does give a certain bit of tonality like the original Human Gear Animato, it doesn't quite nail the pedal 100%. The options are very, very limited as to what you can do with the pedal. I quite honestly think that this pedal was tone-shaped to sound like, specifically, like certain Muse tones. And because it was styled to sound like the Muse tones, the pedal completely dimed in every aspect except for volume to suit to taste. Sounds a lot like the comparable Muse tones that he was using an Animato and a Muff, or just an Animato for. I think it sounds more like the two blended, which is a good thing for those of you chasing the tone of Hysteria, or some other tracks that he uses both pedals on, which there are quite a few. But it doesn't quite hit the nail on the head. It's 60% of both of those pedals mixed together. By itself, it only really hits about 50 to 55, maybe even 60. I'll give it 60%. It hits 60% of the original Animato tone dimed, and it only works in one setting with the little switch facing down, and all the knobs have to be dimed except for volume. So unfortunately, I can't say that this is a true Animato copy. It does do some of what the Animato would do. And if you're looking for a unique distortion that doesn't sound like any other bass distortion, and actually does bleed a little bit excess low end into your sound, this isn't a bad deal. But don't buy it because you want an Animato, because you won't get an Animato.